Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Wilian Gatti Junior. Wilian is an associate professor at the School of Business at Ambrose University. He holds PhDs from University of Calgary and University of São Paulo. Today,
Okay.
we will discuss William's PhD research on fostering curiosity and critical thinking in classroom through gameplay and game design. It's a great pleasure to have you on my show, William.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a really pleasure to talk about this research. And I like your pronunciation of São Paulo. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you. William, when you came to Canada, you already had a PhD in business from Brazil. What was your motivation to pursue second PhD here in Canada?
Yeah, this is crazy. The two PhDs.
I
Yeah.
know.
Well, when I finished the first one, I was actually academic indeed in Brazil. I was teaching in Brazil, and but when I finished, we have this sensation that, I'm not doing good in terms of my pedagogy. Okay,
Okay.
I'm not entering this discussion about andragogy or pedagogy. For me, it's all pedagogy, but people have different names for this. But I'm not satisfied with the way that I'm teaching, the way that people used to teach business, especially using cases or case studies. The discussion is Harvard
Mhm.
style.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I think it works. However, for me, I'd like something different. And then I started to realize that I have learned a lot with games in my childhood.
Hmm.
I learned, for example, from geography, play
Yeah.
uh, Risk.
Hmm.
I learned about finance playing Monopoly. So why not
Hmm.
to use these type of
Yeah.
games in my experience? And then I
Yeah.
started to research about people that are talking about game-based learning.
Yeah.
Is a concept that I discovered during this journey.
Mm.
And then I found some universities that actually has programs related to game-based learning or
Mhm.
professors that research in this area. I found one at the University of Calgary, and she became my supervisor. And then why not to do a second PhD? My
Nice.
wife didn't like this idea, but because
A
it's
lot of
time
sacrifice.
consuming, when you have a family,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I appreciate this idea to have a second PhD
Yeah.
focus on game-based learning. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. So your second PhD is in educational research from University of Calgary, where you examine how board games design supports system thinking. So can you share a little bit about your research project, William?
hmm Yeah. Well, when I come up with this idea to work with games, I was thinking in terms of digital games. So because
Yeah.
I believe that there is
Yeah.
no like board games anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, my supervisor said, no, you don't have any skills to code or anything, so you cannot
Mhm.
develop a digital game. So
Yeah.
focus on board games. I said, board games are boring. And then but during this process, I discovered that there is a new word for board games. That now it's
Ah,
a huge industry
yeah.
because when you have Catan in 1995, we
Uh-huh.
start a new generation of board games that
Mm.
called the Euro games, the games
Yeah.
that use more strategy than lucky.
Yeah.
And then okay, let's create a game in
Yeah.
this with this approach.
Yeah.
And then I developed a game
Yeah.
called entrepreneurial thinking.
Hmm.
And I'd like to combine my expertise, my experience in
Uh-huh.
business, I had a previous experience as an entrepreneur as well.
Hmm.
So I try to combine everything in this game to show that I can use a game in a class, in a
Yeah.
business class.
Yeah.
But I go beyond this idea just to play games in a class.
Hmm.
So I design an experience in which students play this game. This
Hmm.
game was designed with some gaps in
Yeah.
terms of knowledge, in terms of
Yeah.
it's not a perfect
Yeah.
simulation of the
Yeah.
business reality.
Yeah.
So students play the game and then they redesign the game
Oh,
based on their
nice.
assumptions about how business
Yeah.
should work. And
Yeah.
then they can demonstrate their knowledge about certain business topics through
Hmm.
their designs. So this
Nice.
is what the research is about.
Nice. Just to follow up on this, your research design, and so how does your research, which is on game design, approach engage learners in entrepreneurial thinking?
Hmm. Yeah, what I was my assumption is that through design, through the game design part,
Yeah.
they can engage in design thinking, and then it can develop some what they call the cognitive design acts that make it possible to think in terms of design thinking, but not in terms of the method of design thinking, but in terms of the cognition of design thinking. So, for example, when engaging in design, you need to frame the problem. So now you are using framing as one of the cognitive aspects of the design. Okay. And then you need to come up with some ideas for your game. So you create analogies from the reality, from your world. And then you, through this analogy, you are developing analogical thinking, you know? So through, and then you have, like, for example, imagination about how your player, you interact with your game. So you develop your mental simulations. So all cognitive acts about design, and not necessarily you are follow a method, a stepped method for design thinking. You know, that is common in the industry and in schools in business schools, you know.
Yeah. So just to follow up in your last question. So to address your research questions, what did you do?
Well, in my research questions, I'm trying to see if this process can actually foster design thinking.
Okay.
You know, how students interact with the game and develop this aspect. Because what I saw is usually business students, when they face a problem, if you give them a problem in a class, they just jump and try to solve the problem. Okay. But through this process, I show them that they need first to understand the problem. So because you start to create a designer mindset. So before to jump and try to solve it, no, hey, come on, guys, you don't understand the problem. You need first understand the problem, and then you can provide like ideas or can create ideas to solve this problem. You can provide solutions for this. And this is the process. And then I'd like to create this rationality in my students to think in terms of, okay, this is my problem. And then you have the interaction between, okay, I design a prototype, and then I test, and then return, and then I can fix it. So my research questions is relate to this. How can I develop this entrepreneurial mindset or problem-solving mindset, design thinking mindset through the process to play and design games? This is the idea.
Yeah. So for these games, the students are playing like they are. I'm guessing they're real physical cardboard games.
Yeah.
Okay, and you assign some times to them to work on these games and then replay and redesign. Okay. So your research participants were college students, and you did your research in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Why?
Yeah, this is a crazy story. It's because when I design my game, I'd like to of course to use here in Canada. I was in Canada, in Calgary. I'd like to use here. And okay. However, first I want to have a pilot, you know, run a pilot to see if everything's okay. And then I found a college in Brazil, then one of the professors created a course for business games. And through a common connection, we connected, and he said, oh, I'm looking for a board game for my business game class, because business simulation or digital business simulations, there is lots of. But not board game, not simulations in a board format. And then they want to contrast students' performance in a digital and in a board game simulation for business. And they say, can I use your game here? We can pay for that. And then I say, no, you don't need to pay it. I collect some data for my pilot. And then you can write papers just to, you know. And then we wrote a paper that we got the first award in a conference in Brazil.
Yeah.
relate to our approach using
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
And then this just was a pilot. Then
Okay.
okay, and then I collect everything. I saw that works,
Mm.
and then okay, let's apply here in Canada.
Mm.
However, pandemic
Oh.
started,
Mm.
and I could not have like students in class playing board games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was important.
Yeah. No.
I designed my board game in a platform called Tabletopia that
Mm.
you can play the game online in a
Mm.
digital format.
Mm.
Still have it's a board game, but you play online.
Mm.
But the interaction is not the same. So it's changed a
Mm.
lot what I
Yeah.
expected. Because the
Yeah.
magic of board
Mm.
games, you have people around the table and they have
Yeah.
discussions, have fun, you
Yeah.
know, is different. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I was in this situation in which
Yeah.
I need to finish the
Mm.
PhD.
Mm.
I don't have any opportunity to collect data.
Mm.
Which data I had?
Mm.
Just the Brazilian that I collected.
Nice.
And then we have a meeting with my committee
Yeah.
at the university, and the guys give me the green lights. Okay, you can use this data to, and then yeah,
Wonderful.
I need to do this just to finish the PhD. But
Yeah.
then I continue after that.
Yeah.
I still working with games. And when I
Yeah.
moved to France,
Yeah.
I work with game with my students there
Yeah.
and here in Canada
Yeah.
as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. I just want to ask you this question because these are the board games. Is there a learning curve for students to kind of, because every board game, there's a learning process goes on. Like, do you assign some time to learn this game? Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, we have this in terms
okay,
of board game. You need to
okay,
understand the rules of the game
yeah,
first. So
yeah,
you have like special, for example, if you
yeah,
use this approach to play and redesign,
yeah,
you have the first part of the class
yeah,
and the semester. You have
yeah,
to give the students an introduction about the game and the
okay,
basic rules, and
yeah,
then after that they can play it. Yeah.
okay. I just want to go back to your pilot project you did at Sao Paulo. Uh, what did you learn from your research from that pilot study you did?
hmm Well, first, I confirm my assumption that
Okay,
board games really works in a
okay,
class. So
mm-hmm.
the students can redesign a game, bring their perspective, their identity in the design. You know,
Okay.
this is I think it was quite interesting, especially in environments like here that we have, for example, international students that sometimes is quiet, they don't want to speak out, you know.
Yeah,
So through game design, you give them these people a voice that they can put my impression in the design. I don't need actually to speak something in class or to raise my hand and then
yeah,
you speak and then colleagues
yeah, yeah,
joke with me.
yeah,
So in the game design, no, I can put my impression there, my experience,
mm,
so you see the students' background in their
yeah,
designs.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I saw that this thing works. And also the idea that we can work with design thinking,
yeah,
not using this commercial step at,
yeah,
methods that we
yeah,
usually have. Not against this, I think that is a valid thing, but
yeah,
why not instead of focus on the steps,
yeah,
because I attended workshops in the past that
yeah,
okay, let's learn about design thinking, and then the
yeah,
focus is in the process, not
yeah,
on what we are doing.
yeah,
So when you engage in this game design process, it's a chaotic thing,
yeah, yeah,
but works at the end. So you
yeah,
can see that all the process of design thinking works without any previous instruction about the process.
mm,
So you
mm,
can actually embedded that thing, you became like more in terms of more confident in terms of your
yeah,
abilities as a designer because it's
yeah,
something fun, it's something
yeah,
just to relax, and then you
yeah,
present your games to your colleagues at the
yeah,
end of the semester
mm,
because
mm,
you have a game session at the end, so
yeah,
they can play, they can have
yeah,
fun, and
yeah,
then but at the end they learn
yeah,
something about design thinking,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
they learn also because the game itself is also a knowledge for a
mm,
product development process. So
right,
because you are actually create a product.
yeah,
So at the end of the semester, you have a product.
yeah,
You go through all the process,
mm,
and then I invite students to, why not to create a box, a logo,
mm,
to
mm,
go beyond this idea, just a product, but why
yeah,
not to include this a piece of marketing, branding,
yeah,
and then you have a product. So
Nice.
now you develop something, you know.
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah.
like to sell it? Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was reading your thesis, and you mentioned in your thesis that one of the participant came late, and in spite of
Oh,
coming late, the person still won the game, and then the remaining participant thought it's a luck.
this is a paper that I believe that you'll be published in the next follow months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And discuss this idea that entrepreneurship is about lucky or skill. And they have this game situation, and we have three students that are playing, and
Yeah.
then the fourth arrived, and at the end, this late player
Yeah.
won the game. So they
Yeah.
beat all the other competitors.
Yeah.
And then at the end,
Yeah.
all students in that situation said, "Oh, it's because he is lucky that they get the because the game has a component of lucky that you need to roll a dice to see how many pieces you sell in the market.
Yeah.
So they have this aspect in the game.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
and then everybody believed
Yeah.
it that the student won because of lucky.
Yeah.
But through my analysis on the video, because we record all the game session
Yeah.
and everything that happened, you
Yeah.
discover that no, it's not about lucky. It
Mm.
was about the strategy this student
Mm.
employed to deploy to overcome the competitors, you know.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
start to make, for example, they start with
Yeah.
market research,
Yeah.
because the game it's a map of Canada, different
Yeah.
cities. When you have customers in different cities,
Yeah.
they start a business in a city, but they start to research about other markets. So there is a component of market research.
Yeah.
They come up with a plan. They discuss the plan with the instructor during the
Yeah.
process. So
Yeah.
they collect feedback.
Yeah.
So there's a lots of evidence there that shows that it's not just lucky. There is a really intention to to have a strategic plan to overcome the competitors. So was an interesting analysis that showed that also that games can be a space for research, in entrepreneurship, because it's hard to make students invest in a company during the semester.
Yeah. Yeah.
But through the game, you can see at least in the mindset of students relate to risk, risk, if they are risk takers or not, in terms of the strategy they deployed. So it's also a tool, not just for instruction, but also for research.
Yeah. I mean, I know you also touch on the emotion part, because I'm thinking, like, as an entrepreneur, like entrepreneurs also get very emotional, because as a human, we are very emotional being. So how does the emotion play in games, and ultimately its impact on our entrepreneurial decision making?
Yeah, because for example, in this case, some students believe that there is a way to win the game. So they believe that there is a magic formula to win. And they became so strong on that position that they forget to do other things. They focus only in that thing, They create this constraint in their mind. And then at the end, they became so angry that, I couldn't win because the other guys had lucky, but this is the way to win. And then through analysis, you can show that no, you just constrain your possibilities because you're so focused on this way that you believe that this is the way, but no, there's other possibilities. So we also discuss this behavior. So you need to open up your mind to other possibilities and to develop a better strategy. If it's not working this way, you need to pivot and do a different thing, It's a clear connection between theory and the practice that you see in the game.
Yeah, wonderful. So, Wilian, what are the implications of your research?
Well, I think the main implication that games are a powerful tool to be used in class. So I believe that, not, as I mentioned, not only for learning, but also for research, because games are models of the reality.
Yeah.
And even a classroom, it's a game itself. You have rules in your classroom. So every class that you are teaching is a game. So you have the players, the professor, the students, you have rules. It depends on what type of game you are playing, It could be a boring game, could be an exciting game.
Yeah.
This is the thing. So why not to incorporate this
Yeah.
rationality using real games and
Yeah.
that? And also game design. Game design is a powerful means to
Yeah.
communicate, to express, as I mentioned before, the students' identities, you know, things like that. I'd like to give an example in France, for
please.
example,
Yeah.
where we have the students that work in a game for entrepreneurship, and they design a game, an unbalanced game. So each player starts with a different position. So in this game, you have, for example, the white male. The white male has an easy path to the success.
Yeah.
And the black woman has a very complicated path to the success. So through the game, you discuss serious things related to our society, you know, the inequalities that we face in our society. That you can see also on entrepreneurship environment. So through games, you can discuss serious things in a, you know, very soft way, I can say, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it is the main implication that for this research that show the power of game and especially game design in learning environments.
Yeah, nice. So what is your advice to future researchers who wish to study this topic further?
Yeah, this is the thing that also I found. It's not an easy thing. You need first, you need to love games to engage in this type of research. Because when students engage in the process to, for example, to design games, they don't have any idea how to do it, especially business students. Business students don't have no design background. That's for nothing. But I personally I believe that design is a fundamental concept in business. So you need to, for example, to design your strategy. You need to, you know, design solutions for your customers. So I believe that one of the disciplines that we need to have in business schools is design. And through the but to teach design through games, you need first to love games. So I think it's the first challenge for professors that want to engage in these activities. Second, feedback here is really, really important because as you have, for example, the minimal viable product, the MVP that we have in this the terminology in entrepreneurship. For game design, this is crucial. You need to have a quick prototype because if you don't have it, students still interact with their ideas forever. They, oh, let's include this, let's include that. Oh, the game is this, the game is that. You didn't see any games so far. So, hey guys, what is your game? I saw only ideas. You need to stop this process and create something. So when you have the first ideas, prototype. And then you prototype and play test. And then you have this interactive process to prototype and test, etc. So, and then you need to give feedback. And for this, you need to have ideas for game mechanics, game rules, or game designers. So you need to have some exposure for this environment for game design or for board games to get the maximum that you can have in this type of research, you know, because without these, students create like games as, for example, Monopoly. Just move the pieces and roll a dice, and then there is no like strategy. Or the other approach is trivia games. So you have a question, and if you answer correctly, you move a space. If you respond wrong, you move back. What is the challenge here? You just gamify your quiz. So it's not a thing. You need to create meaningful games as this one that I mentioned from France. Then it went discuss inequalities in our society. What is the impact of this? So, and for this, you need to be prepared and understand a little bit about game design. So you need to have this passion for games. As you can see here, there is a chess, the Monopoly. This is a patent of Monopoly. This is a patent of Monopoly, you know? So it's my taste. So because of that, I think it's natural for me, but for others, no. So you need to first to realize, I love games. Yes, so you can do this research.
Yeah. No, I agree that, I mean, involving students in a design is very important. As you said, like if you don't let them design and ask them to do the task, that doing a task is not very complicated, but designing really is a huge mental exercise, and you're able to see all different scenarios.
Yeah, because the game is a system. We have
Yeah,
components that work
yeah,
together
yeah,
towards a goal. And
yeah,
how to make this system meaningful for
yeah,
your customer, for the
yeah,
player,
yeah,
you know? So
yeah,
you need to go beyond your imagination, but you
yeah,
need to put yourself in the shoes of your player.
yeah,
And then you can create a metaphor that the player, you be your customer, you're
yeah,
developing a product, and this
yeah,
product must be like interesting, must be
yeah,
like funny, whatever, you know?
yeah,
So I
yeah.
always ask my students to create a colorful game, some game that
Mm,
calls attention for your
yeah,
customer,
yeah,
because there is lots of aspects related to a game, and not
yeah,
just to move
yeah,
pieces around. It
yeah,
must be like visual appealing, you know?
yeah, yeah. I just want to pick up that last point you mentioned, because you also said that these games allows students to express themselves, to have their own identity. Can you explain how these games allows to express those identity?
Yeah. For example, let's take an example from my country, Brazil. That other
Okay,
colleges start to use my game there as well.
nice.
And when they invite students to redesign my game,
Mm,
because my game it's originally was created with the Canadian map, you know, that you have
okay,
cities in Canada. So the first
okay.
thing the students realize that this is not my country. I
Mm,
cannot
yeah,
recognize these cities. So okay, let's create our cities here.
sure.
But also in
Yeah.
this game, we have events that I
Mm,
call macroeconomic events
mm,
that change the environment of the business. So you
mm,
need also to address this change
mm,
to succeed in this market.
mm,
And then students realize that, oh, this is not our reality. Our reality
mm,
here is I have problems with inflation. I have problems with
mm.
corruption. I have
Yeah.
problems with thieves that steal our trucks and get our merchandise, you know, things like that. So how can I create the environment that I have in Brazil in my game?
Mm,
So it's a clear connection about and then they have discussions about like holidays, that we have seasonality of products. It's
yeah.
typical for their culture, you know, for our culture in Brazil. So you can see it's a
Mm,
clear
mm,
connection between
mm,
their background, their identities, their
mm,
struggles in
mm,
their designs,
mm,
you know. And I can see also, I could see
mm,
this in France with students, French
mm.
students. I
Yeah.
also work with students from different countries,
Mm,
Norway, for example.
yeah.
They create different approach for the game. So you
Mm,
can see these pieces of their cultures and backgrounds
mm,
embedded in their
mm,
designs.
mm.
Because this is the reference that they had.
Yeah.
They don't have like a portfolio of projects in their heads.
Yeah.
They are not professional designers.
Yeah.
So the way that they create analogies, they
Yeah.
support their designs is based on
Yeah.
their backgrounds.
Yeah.
So they can
Mm,
express themselves through this process. There's no other way for them
mm,
because again,
mm,
they
mm,
are not professionals. They don't have
mm.
the history
Yeah.
of other projects.
Yeah.
Because professional designers,
Yeah.
oh, I remember that I work in this project. I use
Yeah.
that solution. They
Yeah. Yeah.
brought the idea and using the different contexts.
Mm,
What those
yeah.
guys know, they
Yeah.
only rely on their backgrounds in their cultural aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, personal question, William. Prior coming to Canada, you had been to several other countries. Uh, Tell us what that experience was like.
Well, it's a rich experience, professionally for sure,
Yeah.
personal
Mm,
uh, as well.
mm,
And we can see how rich is the human being, you know,
mm,
because we
mm.
have different mindsets in
Yeah.
different countries. But if you think in the sense of the humans, we are all the same. We
Mm-hmm.
have the same needs,
Yeah.
we have the same struggles, we
Mm,
have, students, they are also insecure about their
mm,
thoughts or their
mm,
ideas. They don't know what to do next in terms of
mm,
careers.
mm,
So you see that humans are humans everywhere. There's,
Yeah.
of course, cultural differences, you know,
Yeah.
but in a sense, we are all the same, you know, all the same. But I appreciate this cultural aspect, especially living in France, for example, to eat a real cheese, because here in Canada we don't have real cheese, but but there you can find real ones. Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
if someone from the cheese industry are listening to this podcast, please produce a real cheese here in Canada.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time, Wilian, and best wishes on your work.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's quite interesting to talk about games and my career. I love it. Thanks so much.